Sony, nobody's actually competing anymore. Everybody's just fighting to stay alive.
That's cheery.
Ultimately, they're all they're all on the same team. They're all Japanese. That's why you see Gundam Musou and shit.
So what did Chrono Trigger do that was so significant, so different from the other RPGs of its time? Why do people love it so much? Besides the creative team, obviously it's made by talented people, but what is it about the RPG that just works so well? Why don't we go around the table?
I started my first RPG experience, I think, was Final Fantasy 4 or 2 US, whatever they called it, and I got into it, but not as much as I hoped I would. It was just a rental thing at the point, and I was turned off by the random battles, and I just wasn't getting into it. And then, I don't know why, for what reason, it was a long time ago, but I decided to give RPGs another shot. And it was like a Nintendo Power or like an EGM or something, and I saw Chrono Trigger and Square, like name association. So I gave it a try. No random battles. Was hooked right from the intro, and just the characters from the intro, I think. It's just a
when you say the intro, do you mean the playable intro, or do you mean like the sequence?
The fair, the Millennium Fair.
One thing that I think is really interesting about the game is that you actually have that title screen demo, which takes the approach that modern games do with like CG cutscenes, where they just like combines everything together. But it actually did it with the 16-bit in-game assets, so it gave you like this preview of all the places you were going to be seeing in the game.
That's right.
And it was kind of a little bit ahead of its time, because I don't remember ever having seen something like that in a game before.
Right.
But it really, like, watching that with the music and everything, very triumphant, and they take off in the
gets
epic.
You super excited.
Yeah,
about,
you're like, wow, look at all this crazy stuff. I want to play this game.
And then you start off at the fair.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, this is going to be good.
Yeah. It's also very consciously a comedy. Like Final Fantasy took itself very seriously. Dragon Quest was sort of a lighthearted Japanese romp, but Chrono Trigger was a comedy.
The 16-bit Final Fantasies had a lot of humor to them.
They had a lot of humor to them, but if you think about the storyline and things that were happening, it was a lot of like...
You were cracking up when Celis tried to kill herself?
Well, all right. I was, but...
Yeah, I definitely agree that Chrono Trigger has a light comedic mood to it. Like, just when you first start off and you meet the characters, you get really into, I guess, Chrono and Marl, or Nadia. And Luca, Robo, like all these characters, and the story itself is kind of bleak. There's this big thing that's going to destroy the world, and you're like running through the different ages trying to save the world. But at the same time, there's all these like really quirky, crazy characters, that you come across, and it doesn't really take itself all that seriously.
Yeah, I think the sewers in the future is a good example of that, where you're like, it's kind of an optional section of the game, really. You can go through the sewers, and there's like this frog dude and his little servant guy and his toady, and they're like, okay, that in itself is funny, but yeah, they're like doing all these comedy of error things that basically show you how to get through the sewers, like how to activate switches and stuff. And it's a little bit of a tutorial within the game, but at the same time, like, you never really encounter them. They just kind of do goofy, funny things.
I mean, same thing, like right off the bat, you're in Millennium Fair, and then you go up and there's like the little dancing mini game, or the chugging game that you can do, all the race, with the Green Goblin and all that stuff. All those little things that you don't really have to care
Green
about.
Ambler, I think.
Oh, Green Ambler, or whatever. All these, or the little kitten, cats. Just lots of little things that they throw in there that just make it like so good.
Well, and I think the localization helps a lot too. I know there's been the Chrono Trigger retranslation project of late.
Okay, seriously.
I heard about that.
Those guys can die in a fire.
Okay, Chrono Trigger has a fantastic localization for the time. It's not excessive and over the top like, say, Working Designs games at the time, but it gives every character a great sense of personality. It really defines everyone. I mean, it's a pretty simple game with, basic character stereotypes. I mean, everyone's playing to type, but there's a lot of humor in the writing. Everything's very concise. It just it really fits the tone perfectly and gets across a lot of the jokes, which, translating from Japanese, that can be kind of difficult. Like, you have the three henchmen for Magus, who are named in Japanese soy sauce, mayo, and vinegar, which is very Japanese. They love naming characters after food, but in English it's like, okay, stupid. So instead, Ted Woolsey, the translator, named them after famous rock stars, guitarists. So you have Ozzy, Flea, and Slash. and someone in the game comments about how he's heard about them and that they're tone-deaf evil fiends. Just little things like that.
Yeah.
It's really funny, and it's really effective localization. And the fact that someone felt the need to go back and retranslate the game so that people are referring to Magus as Magus-sama.
Yeah.
Talk about missing the point.
Not even just that, but like literally just translating every single thing perfectly from the Japanese, so it doesn't even make any sense anymore.
Right, exactly.
Like seriously, like taking katakana words and just putting them in Roman characters, and thinking that that's a good translation.
That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, good translation is, carrying over the general,
the spirit of the thing, not the literal.
Not literal. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a conceptual problem where someone doesn't get the notion of localization.
And I mean, if they were to go back and retranslate Chrono Trigger today, like they would do it differently just because they have all the space. They wouldn't have to be cutting things out and compressing it.
Well, I think Final Fantasy VI Advance is a good example of how they do it. Right. They very much, with 6 Advance, they really kept the tone of the game. They kept the spirit of the original localization. They kept entire chunks of text. But at the same time, they expanded on it and gave it more depth. And so when you play the 6 Advance version, you get a better feel of, the sheer immensity of the story. But at the same time,